The 2x2 religion, often called 2x2s, the Truth, or the Way, is a quiet, largely hidden Christian group that began in the late 1800s. For most of its existence, it stayed out of the public eye, known mainly to those within it. But recently, that silence has been breaking. Right now, the group is under active investigation. Allegations have surfaced across multiple countries, pointing to widespread child sexual abuse, along with claims of cover-ups and protection of abusers. There are also concerns about a lack of transparency, financially, structurally, and in record-keeping, as well as allegations of coercion, including situations involving adoptions. This is not small or isolated. Reports suggest hundreds of alleged abusers and thousands of victims across more than 30 countries. To understand how it got here, it helps to go back to the beginning. In the late 1890s, a man named William Irvine in Ireland broke away from another Christian movement. He believed that modern churches had drifted too far from the way Jesus and the apostles originally lived. His vision was simple: return to a stripped-down version of Christianity. No church buildings, no paid clergy, just ministers traveling in pairs, 2 by 2, as described in the Bible, and relying on the kindness and hospitality of others. The idea spread quickly. By the early 1900s, the movement had grown beyond Ireland into the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, and other parts of the world. These traveling ministers, known as workers, would stay in people's homes and hold small, intimate gatherings instead of building churches. But the movement didn't stay unified for long. By the 1910s and 1920s, Irvine began teaching new ideas that other leaders rejected, and he was eventually pushed out. After that, the group continued without a single central founder, evolving into a loosely structured but tightly connected network. Even today, the structure remains unusual. There is no official name that members universally use. Many simply call it the Truth. There has historically been no written doctrine and no public-facing presence like a website. Meetings are held in homes or modest halls, and while leadership appears informal, it follows a clear hierarchy of overseers and workers. Because of this, the group is seen in very different ways depending on who you ask. Some critics refer to it as a cult, pointing to its strong emphasis on exclusivity, the belief that it is the only true path to salvation, along with pressure to conform, a lack of transparency, and reports from former members describing control or harm. At the same time, many within the group sincerely believe they are simply living out a pure, original form of Christianity, as it was meant to be. At its core, the belief system centers on simplicity and imitation of early Christian life. There is a strong conviction that their way is the truth, the only correct path, while other churches are often viewed as incomplete or misguided. Outwardly, there is no formal church structure. Gatherings take place in homes, called house meetings, or in simple meeting halls. The ministers, or workers, live differently from typical clergy. They travel in same-gender pairs, do not marry, do not receive a salary, and depend entirely on members for food, housing, and support. But the deeper you look, the more you begin to notice that not everything is written down. In fact, much of the culture isn't taught through formal rules at all. It's felt, absorbed, and quietly understood. These are often called the unwritten rules, and for many people, this is where things start to feel more real and more complicated. There is a strong sense of conformity, especially in appearance. Women are expected to dress modestly, often in skirts or dresses, typically without makeup or jewelry. Men tend to present themselves in a clean, cut, conservative way. The overall feeling is simple. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't stand out. There is also a clear expectation to remain separate from the outside world. This can mean being cautious or even avoiding things like movies, TV, music, and popular culture. Even friendships can be affected, with close relationships outside discouraged. Attendance is expected. Sunday meetings and midweek gatherings are considered important, and absence is often noticed. Worship itself is also distinct. Rather than having a single pastor delivering sermons, meetings often involve members standing up to share testimonies, scriptures, or personal reflections. On the surface, it can appear simple, even humble. But underneath that simplicity lies a complex system, one that has shaped the lives, beliefs, and inner worlds of those raised within it, and one that is now being examined more closely than ever before. Doubts are often kept private, and asking too many questions can make others uneasy. Underneath it all, there is a steady pressure tied to guilt and worthiness. The focus on humility, sacrifice, and avoiding anything considered worldly can leave people feeling like they are constantly trying to measure up, but never quite getting there. What makes all of this especially difficult is that these expectations are rarely written down. They exist in the air, in the tone of conversations, in the subtle reactions of others. People learn them by watching, by feeling, by slowly understanding what is acceptable and what is not. And this is where frustration often begins. For someone raised inside it, these patterns can feel completely normal, just the way life is. But from the outside, or even later in life looking back, they can feel confusing or even restrictive. The rules are unspoken, yet strongly enforced through social pressure. They can shift depending on location or leadership, creating inconsistency. And many people follow them not because they were clearly taught, but because of a quiet fear of judgment, or of losing connection with the people and community that matter most. There's a certain unspoken understanding, you're just supposed to know. And that unspoken knowing can shape a person just as deeply as any written rule ever could. At first glance, everything appears grounded in simplicity. The focus is on humility, on living a quiet life, on following the example of Jesus in a pure and uncomplicated way. For many, that surface is genuine. It feels peaceful, structured, even meaningful. But beneath that surface, there can be a deeper tension, one that isn't always easy to name, but is often deeply felt. Instead of control through clearly defined rules, the influence tends to move through culture, through expectations that are never fully spoken, yet widely understood. It's not something you're told outright. It's something you learn by being part of it, by sensing what is accepted and what isn't. Leaving, or even thinking about leaving, can carry a quiet but powerful weight. It's not just a change in belief. It can feel like stepping away from family, from community, from everything familiar. The fear isn't always loud, but it's there, sitting just beneath the surface. And over time, identity becomes tightly woven into the group itself. It's not just something you belong to, it becomes part of how you see yourself, how you understand your place in the world. So when questions arise, or when something no longer feels right, it can feel less like questioning a belief and more like questioning who you are. That tension between what is seen on the outside and what is experienced on the inside is where many people begin to quietly wrestle with something they can't always explain, but can definitely feel. As more voices began to come forward, the conversation around the group shifted. What had once remained quiet and hidden started to take shape through survivor accounts, investigative reporting, and, in some cases, confirmed criminal convictions. At the center of it all are allegations of child sexual abuse. Survivors from multiple countries have described situations in which workers, traveling ministers, and other trusted members abused children, often in homes where families had opened their doors to host them. What was meant to be an act of faith and hospitality, in some cases, became something deeply harmful. News investigations have described the group as being shaken by a widespread and very public abuse scandal. But the concern does not stop with the abuse itself. A major part of the accusations involves how those situations were handled. Survivors have said that, instead of being reported to law enforcement or child protection authorities, allegations were often dealt with internally. There are accounts of victims being encouraged to forgive, to remain silent, or to avoid bringing attention to what had happened. Some describe a culture where protecting the reputation of the group took priority over confronting the harm. Even more troubling are allegations that some accused individuals were not removed entirely, but instead moved, relocated to new areas, new homes, new communities. In these accounts, families who welcomed them had no idea of the past concerns, creating situations where risk could continue unnoticed. What also stands out is that these concerns have not been limited to isolated individuals. Some former members have alleged that people in positions of higher responsibility were also involved or aware, suggesting a problem that may reach beyond a few individuals. At the same time, it's important to recognize that not every leader is accused, but the allegations themselves are not confined to the edges. Alongside this, there are broader claims of psychological pressure within the group. Former members have described environments shaped by fear, shame, and silence, where obedience was expected, questioning was discouraged, and speaking out could feel like bringing harm to the community itself. These patterns, they say, made it harder for people to come forward or even fully process what they were experiencing. There are also reports of coercion in other areas of life. One of the more difficult allegations involves unmarried women who, in past decades, say they were pressured or influenced into giving up babies for adoption. These accounts describe intense social and religious pressure, though it is important to note that this remains an allegation reported by former members and has not been established as a formal, system-wide criminal finding. Financially, the situation is less direct but still significant. The group's lack of formal structure, its absence of centralized records, official ownership, or clear financial systems has led to concerns about transparency. Some reports suggest that assets may be held privately or through trusts, which can make accountability and compensation for victims more complicated. The issue here is not necessarily proven financial wrongdoing, but rather a structure that can make oversight and responsibility difficult to trace. And beyond all of this, there are confirmed criminal cases. These matter because they show that the concerns are not only theoretical. Looking back, one of the most important questions is this: how did all of this go unnoticed for so long? The answer lies, in part, in the structure itself. There is no official name that clearly identifies the group from the outside. No centralized leadership that can easily be pointed to. No public records or formal documentation laying everything out. Meetings take place quietly, often in private homes, away from public visibility. Because of this, there is little in the way of a paper trail. No single institution to hold accountable. No obvious system for oversight. Even investigators have acknowledged how difficult it can be to track, understand, or assign responsibility within something so loosely defined. In many ways, the structure protects itself, not necessarily through intention in every case, but through the way it is built. And that leads to a harder, more uncomfortable truth. The concern is not only about individual wrongdoing. The allegations, taken together, point to something deeper, a system that, intentionally or not, allowed harm to continue. A culture shaped by silence, reinforced by authority, and made difficult to examine because of its lack of transparency. When those elements come together, they can create an environment where abuse is not only hidden, but also left unchallenged. And this is where the psychological side and the external reality begin to overlap. The same patterns that shaped daily life, control through culture, quiet expectations, fear of stepping out of line, also shaped how people responded when something was wrong. In that kind of environment, it becomes easier for victims to feel confused, to question themselves, to carry guilt that was never theirs, and to stay silent out of fear. And sometimes, deep down, there is a quiet awareness, a feeling that something doesn't quite add up, a sense, hard to explain, easy to dismiss, that something isn't right. For many, that instinct gets pushed aside for years, but it doesn't disappear. And when it finally surfaces, it can change everything. For those born and raised within this environment, these experiences do not just stay on the surface. They shape the way a person understands themselves, others, and the world. From an early age, identity becomes deeply intertwined with the group. It's not simply something you belong to, it becomes part of who you are. Being good is associated with obedience, humility, and fitting in, while being wrong is tied to questioning, independence, or standing apart. Over time, the mind learns something powerful and deeply ingrained. If you do not conform, you may not just be wrong, you may be unsafe, disconnected, or alone. That kind of learning doesn't sit lightly. It becomes part of survival. At the same time, love and acceptance can begin to feel conditional, even when no one openly says it. Approval often follows alignment with expectations, while distance, concern, or silence can follow deviation. The nervous system absorbs this pattern and quietly concludes, I have to be a certain way to be accepted. And that belief can stay long after the environment changes. Fear also becomes intertwined with morality. It is no longer simply about right and wrong choices. Instead, it becomes tied to safety, belonging, and even existential consequences. Right feels safe, wrong feels dangerous. And because of that, even small, everyday decisions can carry a weight far beyond what they seem. Over time, these patterns can shape the inner world in lasting ways. Many people describe a constant undercurrent of anxiety, an ongoing sense of needing to monitor themselves, to think carefully before acting, to avoid making the wrong choice even in ordinary situations. Others describe a deep, quiet sense of shame, not just feeling like they made mistakes, but feeling as though something about them is fundamentally flawed. Trusting oneself can also become difficult. When truth has always been defined externally, personal instincts can feel uncertain or unreliable. Decisions that might seem simple to others can feel overwhelming, filled with second-guessing and doubt. There is often a strong tendency toward people-pleasing as well. Learning to keep peace, to avoid conflict, and to not upset authority can lead to a habit of saying yes when the answer is no, or feeling responsible for the emotions and comfort of others. In some cases, the mind adapts in an even deeper way through dissociation. When parts of a person's inner experience don't align with what is allowed, those parts may be pushed aside or muted. Over time, this can create a sense of disconnection, emotional numbness, or living on autopilot, as if parts of the self are separated rather than integrated or together. This is what the author suffers from the most. And perhaps one of the most powerful experiences is the fear of leaving. Stepping away is not just about changing beliefs. It can feel like losing identity, community, and a sense of certainty all at once. Even considering a different perspective can trigger a deep internal question. What if I'm making a terrible mistake? All of this is what gives the system its strength, because it is not enforced through obvious force. It is woven into relationships, into family, into meaning, into the very sense of safety and belonging. It becomes something the mind relies on, something it interprets as necessary for survival. And that is why it can be so difficult to untangle. But understanding it, seeing it clearly, piece by piece, is often the beginning of something else. Not loss, but awareness.